Good morning or good afternoon, whenever you guys are getting to this today for math. I hope everyone had a great weekend, and we're going to kick things right off. We're going to pick back up kind of where we left off. So we covered 6 different angle types last week. We covered vertical angles, corresponding angles, alternate interior and alternate exterior, and then the last one we covered was same side interior and same side exterior. We are going to kind of look at those and what they might look like in equations. So you guys did a little bit of this during your small groups last week. We're going to pick right back up and learn a little bit more about it. All right, when you guys are completing today's Ed puzzle, you will not need to take notes today, but you will be solving some problems here in Ed puzzle. So if you need a piece of paper, if you need a pencil, a calculator, I recommend you get those now so you are set to go for your Ed puzzle, all right? So some of our angle types are equal. Let's go over. There are 4 of them. We're going to talk about which ones the angle measures are congruent to each other, and that is how we know that they are equal. We have vertical angles. Vertical angles are directly across from each other. You guys did a problem in your pair deck for small groups last week, and you identified which one was the vertical angle and that they are the exact same angle measures from each other. So when you have 2 angles directly across from each other and you have your 2 parallel lines and a transversal, you know that the angles directly across from each other are equal to each other because they are vertical angles. Another one we said are corresponding angles, and we know that corresponding angles are equal to each other because 1, they're on the same side of the transversal. So those 2 stars are on the right side of the transversal. And we also said that there are 4 quadrants that it could be in, or 4 corners around each point of intersection. Remember, this is our point of intersection, and there are 2 of them. When you have 2 parallel lines, your points of intersection are where the transversal crosses that parallel line. You can be in the upper left, lower right, or upper right. Which corner are the stars in? They are in the upper right corner. Since they are the same corner at each parallel line, they are equal to each other. Another one is your alternate interior angles. Alternate tells us they are on opposite sides of the transversal. You have this heart that is on the left side of the transversal, and this heart is on the right side of the transversal. That is how we get the word alternate. Now, interior tells us that these 2 angles are in between our parallel lines. They're inside of the sandwich, okay? So they are equal to each other. Another one is alternate exterior. Remember, almost the exact same as alternate interior. The only difference is they are outside of our parallel lines. Alternate, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Exterior tells us they are outside of those parallel lines, okay? So they are the outside of the sandwich. All right, so we just covered angle measures that are equal to each other, talking about our different angle types. Now there are 2 angle types that their 2 angle measures add up or are equal to 180 degrees, and we know those as supplementary angles. Our first one is same side exterior. So same side, remember that tells us they're on the same side of the transversal, and they are outside of our parallel lines. That's what exterior tells us. So same side of the transversal, outside of our parallel lines. Now we have same side interior. Almost the same thing. Same side of the transversal. So these 2 purple diamonds are on the left side of our transversal, but they are inside of those 2 parallel lines. So outside of the parallel lines, inside of the parallel line. Okay, so we have went over our 6 different types of angles and whether they are equal to each other or add up to 180. So now let's go back and look at each angle type again and how that relates to putting it into an equation. So first, let's start off. You have a 65-degree angle right here. And we know we're looking at vertical angles. That is our x value. If I asked you to solve for x, what would you make your equation look like? It would be 65 equals x, because x and 65 are the same. And we know that congruent because they are vertical angles. Now, let's take it a step further and look at something a little bit harder. You have 65 and x plus 15. Now, what do we know about vertical angles? They are congruent. So when you see those two, are you going to set them equal to each other? Yes, because they are congruent, they get set equal to each other. So 65 equals x plus 15. Now, what is the first step in solving this equation? Subtract 15 from both sides. And 65 minus 15 is 50. So 50 degrees equals x. So let's recap a little bit. We know that they equal each other. So we set them equal to each other. Regardless of what each angle says, you will set them equal to each other if angles are congruent. So vertical angles are congruent. So we set 65 degrees and x plus 15 equal to each other. And then we solve from there to get x. Here are 3 problems I want you guys to solve on your own. That's why I asked you to have a calculator, pencil, paper, in case you need it. There will be questions on Edpuzzle, so I will let you guys solve these 3. And remember, vertical angles are congruent. So these are all examples of vertical angles and equations. Okay. Corresponding angles. We just did vertical, and we know that corresponding, just like vertical, the angles are equal to each other. They are congruent. So if I'm having 62 degrees up here, and I want to solve for this x value right here, what is my equation going to look like? 62 degrees equals x, because remember, they get set equal to each other because those 2 angles equal one another. So think about it. If you know that they're equal to each other, picture that equal sign. You know they equal each other, okay? Now, 62 and x plus 23. What is the first step we're going to do? Set them equal to each other. So 62 degrees equals x plus 23. And what is the first step in solving this equation? Subtract 23 from both sides. And 62 minus 23 is 39 degrees. So we found x by setting 62 degrees equal to x plus 23. And then we solved from there, and that helped us get 39 degrees for x. Same thing you guys just did for vertical angles. We're going to do again. These are all corresponding angles. Remember, equal sign means set them equal to each other. So go ahead and solve these 3. All right, alternate interior angles. So we know that alternate interior angles are on opposite sides of our transversal and in between those parallel lines, okay? They're still equal to each other because we know alternate interior angles are congruent to one another. There's our x value right here. So what am I going to do first? I'm going to set x equal to 137 degrees. And that tells us that x equals 137 degrees. Now, alternate interior and alternate exterior are very similar. The only difference you guys know is they are outside of the parallel lines. And that's what exterior tells us. So we're going to combine those 2 for our examples here. So we just did alternate interior with just setting x equal to that angle measure. Now we have 117 degrees. And we have x plus 22. What is my first step in setting up this equation? Setting 117 equal to x plus 22. Now, what's my first step in solving this equation? Subtract 22 from both sides. Awesome. And 117 minus 22 is 95 degrees. And now we know that x equals 95 degrees. And what do? We set them equal to each other and solved the problem. Here are 2 problems. You have one that is alternate exterior and one that is alternate interior. Go ahead and solve for x on both of these. And remember, they are equal to each other, so set them equal to one another. All right, we just covered the 4 angle measures that are equal to one another. Now let's look at the angle measures that add up to 180. Our first example is same side interior angles. When angles add up to 180, what do we call those? Supplementary angles. So these 2 angle types could also be called supplementary. We have 47 degrees here, and the same side interior angle with that 47 degrees is right here, x. We know that they are not equal to each other, right? They're equal to 180. So our equal sign will have 180 on the other half. That is your first thing you need to do. So the last one, if they're equal to each other, you have your equal sign at both angle measures because they are equal to each other. But now you know it has to add up to 180 for same side interior. It has to add to 180, not each other, 180. So then we have x plus 47. What's our first step in solving this? Subtract 47 from both sides. And 180 minus 47 is 133 degrees, and that's how we solved for x. Same side exterior is the same thing. They add up to 180. They are supplementary. So you won't just have an equal sign for both angle measures. Both angle measures will add up to 180 degrees. So now let's look. We have x plus 32 and 39 degrees. To solve for this problem, we know that the first thing we're going to do is set our equal sign equal to 180 degrees. Now, I need to add both of these angle measures together. How would that equation look? We have 39 plus x plus 32. When you're solving an equation like this, I would combine those whole numbers together first and get x on its own with that. So first we have 39 plus 22. What does that measure? 71. So now we have 180 degrees equals 71 degrees plus x. So x is by itself. It kind of looks like the last problem, right? We have x by itself, one whole number. Now, how do I solve this? What's my first step into solving this? Subtract 71 from both sides. And 180 minus 71 is 109 degrees equals x. Okay, go ahead and solve these two problems. Remember, they do not equal each other. They equal 180. So do not set them equal to each other. Set them equal to 180 degrees, okay? All right, guys, you have finished today's Ed Puzzle. Thank you guys so much. Hold on to those problems if you wrote paper, just as a reference. If not, you guys are good to go for this Ed Puzzle. Have a great day, guys.